Alright, let's talk about virtual reality. And there are many different headsets out there that you can use. Specifically, we have a couple of them on the left. And the one that I want to talk about today is the HTC Vive. This device was created in 2016. It was a reaction from the headset that Oculus created, and they wanted to push things a little bit forward. So they directly compete against the Oculus Rift. What they decided to create was something that was able to be tracked so you could move around. And this is a big change because if you understand that the first version of the Oculus, the development kit 1, was only able to detect a little bit movement, basically just rotation around and a little bit of moving up and down. And then they moved to the Oculus DK Development Kit 2, which had a camera to allow you to move a little bit to the sides with your head still sitting and a little bit up and down and rotating your head around, but still using as an input controller like an Xbox controller. This was a big change. Okay, Oculus Rift, they did add cameras so you were able to be sitting or standing on a single position, but they still just had the Xbox controller. Yes, they included the Xbox One controller, but still was a controller. And this is where the magic from HTC Vive comes along. Okay, they included two lighthouses, which is these two devices that we have on the bottom that use infrared to scan all that they have around. What we have to do is that we have to put one in front of the other. Okay, I will talk a little bit more about how to place them in a little bit. Okay, and because of that, they are able to track what you have around. So instead of just having a standing and sitting position, now you can walk around a room and you can have around 5 meters of movement, which is a big, huge change. The lighthouses are designed to be wireless, but you can still connect them with a synchronizing cable, which is a 2.5 millimeters cable. But the important thing is that the headset includes an RGB camera to help along the two lighthouses to track everything. You might be thinking why the headset look like it has a couple of dents. Okay, these dents are specifically designed to be identified by the infrared and the RGB camera and to place correctly on position and rotation both the headset and the two controllers. The two controllers are wireless and they are highly ergonomic. Okay, and we have multiple buttons around this where we can interact in a very different way. Now, the screen, it was a big upgrade from what we have on Oculus. So we now have 2160 by 1200 at 90 hertz. And this is important because the older devices were designed to run at 60 hertz. Now, this one runs at 90 hertz. That means that 90 times on a second the screen is refreshed. So, as a rule of thumb, I highly recommend that you always target your interactions to run at least at 90 frames per second. Okay? 90 FPS is what you're looking for, so it synchronizes correctly with the screen of the device. If it is 120 FPS, that's okay. Just make sure to be on 90 FPS. That's going to make all the movement to feel smooth. Now we get these 6 degrees of freedom from the lighthouses. that comes from the rotation on all axes and be able to move forward, backward, left, right, up, and down. That means that we can jump when we have this device, or we can crouch, or we can move slowly to one side or the other, and it's going to be recognized. Finally, it uses USB 3.0, so it's important to identify which kind of ports are required. For instance, the USB 3.0, just one, an HDMI or mini display port connection, and that's it. Of course, we are going to need a power supply, but that's not an issue. So, what we are going to use for this particular device is the SteamVR SDK. Why? Because Steam has spent a lot of money to making sure that almost all VR headsets are supported by them. So you don't have to be jumping around different SDKs. You can just use one single SDK for all headsets. SteamVR was created in 2014, so this might come as a surprise because the HTC Vive is from 2016. Well, this is because they started working on this before, because we had the Oculus. Okay, the requirements to be able to run SteamVR is Windows 7 or better. Unfortunately, Mac and Linux are not supported. We need a CPU that is at least like a Core i5 4th generation. We are right now on generation 11, so we are good on that part. At least 4 gigabytes of RAM, and usually the big issue was the graphics card. Back then, when this was released, they asked to have something similar to an NVIDIA GTX 970. Okay, this can run on a 960, but it's going to be laggy. So they highly recommend that you use a GTX 970. Now, since this is so old, now we have many new interactions and we have new video cards, which help us a lot to create beautiful content and to run at least 90 frames per second. Okay, now it supports, as you know, HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, Windows Mixed Reality. There are many different headsets from companies like Toshiba, like Lenovo, etc. And of course, the Valve Index. Okay, they are including support to more and more devices, and they actually use a technology called OpenVR, which means that this SDK is open source, so it is on C++, and you can add extra things to this. There is a new device called the HTC Vive Pro, created in 2018. Sorry, they increased the resolution of the screen to 2080 by 1600. They still use the same lighthouses actually. When you buy this device, it usually only has a headset because you can reuse the controllers and the lighthouses. Okay, and on 2019, they released the HTC Vive Pro Eye, which includes eye recognition. That means eye tracking inside the device, so you can have more interactions inside the device. Okay. Now let's talk about how we should arrange the lighthouses to make it work. As you can see from this image, or well, 3 images, we need to set up the lighthouses to look at each other. Okay, the recommendation is to put them up above. So depending on the height that we want to have, I usually put them around 2 meters high, and from there I tilt them a little bit, imagining the 120 degrees that it has to the ground. Okay, so you can actually, when you run the room setup from the SteamVR, which we are going to look a little bit further, it helps you out to see what's happening. But the idea is to have both devices looking at each other. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have no obstacles in between. So it has to be an open area. We cannot have couches or chairs or tables or whatever. First, because it's going to make it difficult to identify the tracking of the headset, and secondly, because it's highly likely that you're going to stumble upon those and fell down. Okay, so that's why we need to do that. Now, what we create on Steam is a polygon. It's basically a rectangle. And when the room setup is guiding us, we are going to move around with our controller to show it the limitations that we have on space, and it will automatically calculate the rectangle that we have to play. So there are different setups that we can have. Always try to get the best amount of space. Here you see how it is between the screen and the couch, or between the TV and the bed, or a TV on a difficult space, difficult room. Okay, what you see on the first image, that is the synchronizing cable moving along in case that they cannot work together. This is very important since they use infrared to identify the headset and the controllers. We need to avoid sunlight. Okay, as you know, infrared is on one side of the spectrum, and on the other side is ultraviolet, which is what sunlight is. Okay, so if we have sunlight, it's going to blind the sensors and they are not going to work, and we maybe can use the synchronizing cable, but it's still going to be really difficult. So always try to avoid windows or doors or open spaces that can introduce sunlight. Depending on the amount of sunlight, it can work. For example, on our lab, we have a little bit of sunlight. So around, I'll say between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., or maybe a little bit longer, maybe 5 p.m., we get the most amount of sunlight, and the tracking becomes a little bit jagged. That means that from time to time we lose the tracking, and the image jumps around, or maybe our location is not correctly detected and it's jumping around. So please absolutely avoid sunlight. Okay, so now how do we start uh, setting everything up? Okay, so we have two different boxes on the Media Lab. This is one of those two. This is the shortest one. So I will start by opening from the rear and making sure that this will go up properly. So I'll put this part to rest. This, open up the box. You can see that the manual is right here. If you want to see all the information about where to place the different lighthouses, you can find it right here. Here are some suggestions about using 2 meters by 1.5 meters or 5 meters, etc. And you will also find right here all the different things that are inside the case. Okay, so once you're done with this, you can put it away right here on this envelope. This properly right there. You will find that we have two controllers that are grabbed like a gun. It's like this. So we have one right here. We have a second one right here. Then we have our headset. And as you can see, all the connections for the headset are inside right here. And there are three main connectors. We got an HDMI, we got power, and we got USB. This is actually USB 3.0. Even though it's not blue, it's important to mention that. and they also have this lining, orange lining, because of a reason that we will talk about a little bit further. Okay, so I'll take the lighthouses out as well, and inside of this you will find that we have different power adapters. Okay, so here's one. I have also other HDMI cable, another USB cable. We have mounts for the wall, which we are not going to use right now. And on the other side, you will find that we have the link box, which this is why we have the orange lining, so we know that these connectors should be in here. And on the other side, this is the connectors that go to the PC. You can see it here explained. Okay, so we can either use mini DisplayPort or HDMI to connect to the video graphics card. And here you can see that it is a blue connector. So it's USB 3.0, the one that we are going to need, and we are going to need power as well. We have headphones, which these headphones can be connected directly to the headset. Right here, you can see that it has a connector, or you can use your own headphones. And finally, we got two more power adapters. Okay, so we have three power adapters because we have two lighthouses and we have the link box. So this is a short one, and you will identify that this connector is actually for the link box. Okay, you can easily identify it because the cable is not so long. In contrast, you will find the other two power adapters have a long cable for the lighthouses. Okay, so in order to place the lighthouses, you can put it on a furniture or anything else, or you can use a tripod, either a small one like this one right here to put it on top of furniture, or we can use a big one. Any kind of a big tripod can also work, as long as we have the correct way to connect everything. Okay, so there are many different kind of tripods that we can use. The most important thing is that the lighthouses should be able to look at each other. Okay, they work if you only have one of them. Yes, they do work, but the thing is that they will track better if there are two lighthouses looking at each other. Okay, so we will see that there are different setups for this. Now, on the lighthouses, you will find that it has multiple connectors. Okay, this is specifically for USB, and this is intended to connect it to the computer for firmware updates. This one is for a cable that it's inside the box, which is like an auxiliary cable, the one that we use on a headphone, for instance. It's in case that you are not capable of synchronizing the two lighthouses wirelessly. So you can connect a 2.5 meters cable that goes from here to the other lighthouse, so they get synchronized. Most of the time you won't need it. Then we have the button to change the current status, and then we have the connection for the power. We have two ways to set up on the wall or on a tripod. Here is one, and here's the other one. Okay, so once we connect this, let me just grab this cable right now. Sure. Okay, sorry. So if I connect this device, I will put it right here so you can see it. I highly recommend that you don't move it anymore once it is connected because it is already trying to track. Okay, it's really important to avoid that. Now you can see right here that it has a letter. Okay, that's actually showing the infrared matrix that it has, and it has a small letter right here which says C. Okay, so you will find that we have A, we have B, and we have C. Now, one of the lighthouses should be on B, and the other lighthouse should be on C. So B and C. If you put them on A, you can use them to be synchronized by the cable. You can find more information on the HTC Vive documentation. In the case of the controllers, you will find that we have a trigger right here. We have button which is to be pushed on the sides. We have a menu button on the top. This is a tracking pad, okay? So it can sense where you're putting your finger, and it can also sense where you click it. And it has the main button right here. So if I press this one right now, it's going to start trying to connect to the computer, but it's not going to work because it is not set up right now. And right on the bottom part, you will see that it has a USB connector to be able to charge it because it has a battery, and also for firmware updates. On the headset, you will find that first it has an RGB camera right here. This one is to help out on the tracking. Then on this side, you will find that it has a little bit of cushions to help you feel more at ease, and it has the Fresnel lenses. Now this one right here is to identify if you have the headset on or not. So when you're testing, if you want to do testing of tracking without putting the helmet, you just need to put your finger around here so it detects something right there and the screen is turned on for the lenses. Okay, you can remove this part to change the connectors. This is possible, so it is possible to replace eventually the cables, and that's a very good thing. And as you can see, the cables are grabbed by this part to make it easier. You can adjust the size right here if you have a smaller head or a bigger head, and right here you will find that it has this little knob. Okay, this one is to specifically adjust the lenses, the differences that there is between one and the other, so it moves like this. So depending on how close or how far you have your eyes, but the setup of HTC will help us on that part as well. And now we have to connect everything into the computer. Everything connected, we can start Steam. And on Steam, we need to make sure that we install the SteamVR tool. Once we know it is ready, we can click on this button, which is in the top right, and we can launch SteamVR. What is going to happen is that it's going to verify that everything is connected properly and that both lighthouses are able to see each other. So right now you can see it on the right that I have both of them. One is in mode C and one of them is in mode B. Okay, we can identify them if we want. So basically what we do with this is that each one of them will blink a little bit so we can actually see them working properly. Now you can see that I have the headset connected, but I don't have the controllers on yet. So I will press both controllers and they will be identified. Right now these controllers, you can see the battery for each one of those, and you can see that there is an update available, which I could run just by connecting them directly to the computer and following the whole process. Now, a very important thing to do is to make sure that we run the room setup. Okay? The room setup is the one that is going to help us calibrate everything on the scenario so it is working properly. Okay? So you can see that we have two options, room scale and standing only. It will highly depend on the environment that you have. For instance, on our labs, you can set up room scale. If you are on your studio and it's really small, you can do standing only. And you just have to follow the guides that are in each one of those. For instance, in room scale, they want us to move all the furniture that we have around and make sure that we have at least 2 meters by 1.5 meters available. Right now on the setup that I have, there is no enough space for that. So I will set up standing only. So you can see that it has already the headset and everything, and then it's asking me to calibrate the center. So I will grab the device and set up where is the center. Okay? Afterwards, we are going to say how the height that we have for this device right now. The actual device that I have around for this should be a little bit around 150. You can put it on the floor if you want and just put 0. So once we have this one ready, we can validate that everything is working properly. You can put the headset and you can see around to see if you can see the devices and everything else. There is one thing running on the device and there's a different thing running on the computer. So it's important that you know the difference between these two. For the next part, we can actually just minimize the screen and we will use the SteamVR Unity plugin. This is the website where you can find it. It is on GitHub and we need to download this project to be able to use it. Okay, so here's a full explanation on how to quick start, how the interaction system works, the different kind of scenes that we have right here. So for instance, you can see download SteamVR Unity plugin from the asset store. Okay, so here's where to install it. Then we have on the window how to put the input and we can create our own inputs in this. Okay, there is a whole interaction system around this. There's a lot of different guides that we can follow to make it work properly. Okay, now I highly recommend that instead of using the SteamVR Unity plugin from the asset store, you actually download this either using Git or directly as a zip file right here, because this is the latest version. Now Unity introduced a new XR input system which completely clashes with the SteamVR Unity plugin. So they recently fixed this on GitHub, but apparently it is still not fixed on their asset store package. Okay, so please download this one, unzip the folder, and then you will be able to include it into Unity. So I have right now, right here, and I will add a new one. You can see it on my desktop that I have this project, which is the one that we have from GitHub. I will put select folder and you will see that there is a mismatch with the version. That's okay, don't worry about that. Just select the version and select the version that we have been using, which is 2020.1. Afterwards, click on it, confirm that we want to upgrade the project to the latest version. You will see this message, okay? This is okay, don't worry about it. If you try to use the one from the asset store, this message is going to continuously pop up. So I will just hit OK. Okay, once this is done, we can just hit OK. An important thing is that when you start up the device, you will find that it can change the default system. Okay, so for instance, it will likely use HTC Vive and be a high definition audio. So if you want to use another source for the headphones, you can just change it right here. Otherwise, the sound is going to be on the device and you need to connect the cable that I show you for the headphones. So you will see that it has set up a lot of different things. We can just hit clear. If you have if you want to know, this is the new XR plugin management system, and you can see that they have included some things around this. Okay, so from the scene you can open up and see everything that they have included. For instance, we have the simple sample right here, and if I hit play, it is bouncing right there. You can find that there's a couple of things right here, and an important it's highly likely that it's going to show that you need to create inputs for this project. Just click yes and yes and yes and everything yes until everything is created, because eventually it will show you the Steam VR input. Okay, you can see it right here. It looks like your project missing an actions JSON, so we need to have this one. Either can appear automatically, or you need to go into the Steam VR input. So once we hit yes, it will start compiling everything that we can do with this. Now, this is exactly why Steam wanted to create OpenVR and use it like this, because this is going to modify how we interact with each one of those. You can see that it says Interact UI, etc. So you can open up right here and open Bindings UI, and you can see the bindings that we have right now and the controller. This is where it will appear: Oculus Rift controller, Oculus Quest 1 and 2 controller, the index from Bob, etc. So this is the current binding that I'm using. You can go into Edit and you can see what is called grip, and this is called as a click. So menu, that button is right now not being used, but we can create it as a button, as a toggle button. That means that it's going to change a boolean, an analog action, or on use. Right now it's on use. Now interesting things happen with the click. Okay, you can see the trigger and it's being used as a clicker. That means that we need to fully press it, or just by press it, it's going to count as a click. But we can also have it as a squeeze, and this pull is a value that goes between 0 and 1, like a trigger from another kind of controller. So we can use it as both things. If we fully done the click, it's going to be like that. A pull, this is the different amount of squeeze that we are going to have. And we have also the trackpad, where we know if we click on it, on north it's teleport, on east is snap turn, south it's teleport again, west is snap turn, and center is teleport. This is always as a click. Okay, if I include something else, we can see it like a trackpad, because we can slide our finger on this controller, or it can be like a scroll, a radial menu, a button, etc. So depending on what we want, right now I'm going to delete this one, sorry. We can adjust a lot of different things. Now you might be wondering why the right byte controller is on gray and we cannot modify. This is because we have mirror mode. That means exactly what we have on the left is going to happen on the right. We can disable mirror mode and specify how some things are done on the right controller different from the left controller. We can save that personal binding. We can export this file if we want to send it to someone else, or we can publish it to the workshop. The workshop is what you see right back here. Okay, these are the community bindings that we can find. So for instance, I have some bindings for a research project that I uploaded and that you can easily find to work with this. Okay, and you can see show more applications. Well, here are some of those. You can see it right here in Unity. I have others as well. For instance, for Tilt Brush, it has them also. Okay, so after we make sure that we have the inputs working, we hit play, we should see the ball jumping around, and now you can see that there are no errors, right? So this is just a simple demo. We have a folder called the interaction system, and inside of it there are samples, and there's this thing called interaction. Okay, it's very important that for this one you always make sure that you have enough space to move around. And as you can see, I have the game window right here. You are not going to be able to see exactly what I see on the headset, but you are going to be able to see both the scene and the game scene. Okay, so if I hit play, sometimes there's a message on the device that says the action manifest for SteamVR testing was not found. You just hit close and you hit the same button that you used to turn it on, which is the layers, is to change between home and devices. You can just switch between those. Okay. Okay, so you can see right now that it says that an OpenVR loader is checked. So it seems that this is the issue that we have right now, that I have to put OpenVR loader so it can work properly. So we will try again by hitting play. And now you can see that it works properly. Okay, so I have my controllers right here. I think you can see what I see on the screen, and you can see that it says teleport. So if I click this part, I can teleport to this. So I can move forward, backward on the real world, depending on how much space I got. And you can see that if I reach this, if I hit the trigger, the hand, depending on how much I pull the trigger, is closing or opening the fingers. Okay, so right now I'm grabbing this cube and I can throw it. Okay, same thing happens if I teleport right here, grab the ball and throw it right there. Okay, so just be really careful to not be close to a screen or anything. You can read how each interaction is working. So for instance, I will move right here, and you can see that we can change by putting the controller. So if I put it right here, between thick glob, thin glob, holding with 3 fingers. So I will leave it like this. I can show or hide the controller, as you can see it right here. So I can hide. I can animate hand with controller or without the controller there. So you will see that we have, for instance, button hints. If we want to use button hints, text hints, or disable all kind of hints, we have all of these available. Okay, same thing if we go into remotes. I can grab certain kind of remotes or a different kind. For instance, that one. Let's see, right there. And with the D-pad, I can select where I want it to go. Okay, same thing happens all the way from here, like right here, turn around, no hand hovering, right hand hovering through. We have, so I can move right here, I can grab this one, and you can see how I press it. I can push it around. Same thing happens with this one, falls, or even like grenades. Okay, if we want linear drive, we can grab this, and it doesn't matter where I put the joystick, this is moving just in a linear way. Same thing right here. If I push it right here, as long as I'm making contact with the object, if I stop doing that, it's going to stop rotating. Buttons, we want to press a button right there, like this. And there are many different things that we can do. Now, the interesting part should be, how is all of this accomplished? Okay, so to accomplish all of this, we need to check the code that each one of those has. So let's start with the simple one, this one right here. You can see that it says interactable, and it has a script already which has information on how to activate. Okay, so now it says activate action set on, it says none. We have different actions, so if we want to create our own, we can include it there. Hide hand on attach. If we want to hide the skeleton, the controller, we can configure all of this to make it even better. Now, the most that we most verify is interactable example. Right here, you will find that the first thing is that they have this namespace. That's okay. But they are requiring to have the component interactable, the one that we were checking just now. And they have different things like the interactable, they have attachment flags for the hands, they have a text mesh, etc. It's not important right now. You can find how they change the text. They get the interactable. We have done this before. And they have on hand hover begin, on hand hover end. And you can also see that they have hand hover update. Okay, so if you start validating everything that we have around here, you might be wondering, how is this called? Well, these are functions similar to on collision enter, etc. Are already defined by interactable. The code is right here. You can check it as well. So on hand hover begin, they changed the text, but we could do something different than that. Hand hover update, they are getting the graph type, and from that graph type they're deciding what to show. Okay, if the graph is ending, they detach the object. So you can check all of this, and if we jump into a more complex one, let's say if we jump into the linear one, you can also see that the handle has interactable. And they have interactable hover events. On hand hover begin, they can put an object and say what they want to do to that object. Okay, they're changing the material. So we can add scripts similar to what we do with buttons on UI. They have this code called linear drive, which is helping them to be able to move things. So please check all of these codes. Here you can see the long bow, the circular drive, drawing, hints, etc. to understand how it works. The basics of it is to be able to create, and let me show you thing interactable. Yeah, interactable is the base one. They have this SteamVR action set. Okay, this is where they get the activations, and from there they start validating which ones are named and which ones are not. So let me get a little bit further into the code so you can see it. Okay, right here. If activate action set on attach is different than null, activate hand tied. Okay, so they are activating different things depending on what they want. So again, you can find all of this on the web page for the guide. Please check all of these codes. Making simple interactions is rather simple just by looking at the interactable example and using the events that we have right here. So start validating that everything is correct and make sure that everything is running smoothly. Okay, so basically this is how to create a project using SteamVR, and the advantage again is that you can use all the devices supported by SteamVR, which is a big plus, and you don't have to create a project with different SDKs for every device that you're going to support. Okay, so now it is time to put everything back into the box. And as you can see, I already have here the headset, the link box, and some of the power supply. Okay, so first we get the first cable, which is going to be this one. This is the one that goes directly to the device. Now, I highly recommend that you do the following for the cable. Okay, so you put the first twist right here, put your hand right here, and with your thumb, you give it a little bit of a twist. Make sure that it has the correct size. And again, do the same thing over and over again. This is how audio specialists usually recommend to roll up the cable to avoid entanglement, like the one that we have right here. This one, this is twisting the cables on the inside and can hurt our device a lot. Okay, so again, I'll put this one right here, and you can see it has a lot of twists. This one, okay, be really careful not to damage the cable. Okay, and finally we have it right here. Okay, so I will put this to the side right now. So you can see you have to be extremely careful because we have many different cables. Okay, so for now I will put the headset right here, disconnect the rest of the cables. You can see I have the link box right here. You can do the same if you want for the rest of the cables. Put a bit of this right here, and you can see that this is the energy cable. If you want, you can put it right here to make it easier. We got the USB cable right here, and we have the HDMI cable. Now, on this part on the inside, we can pull with our finger this little part right here, okay? And inside of it, we can put away the different kind of cables that we had. There is a special place for this box on the other side, so we just need to be sure that everything is fitting properly in here. I still have this cable right here, so I can twist it like this as well. Just make sure that the curvature right here is not too much, or it's going to start breaking the cable. Okay, as you can see, I can try this right here. So far so good, it's closing properly. I can put the device. You see that there is a small difference between this part and this part. Okay, so this is extremely important. The device should be inside of here on the deepest part, and the cable should be on the top part. Okay, so I'll remove this cover, and right here I can put my finger around here. Sometimes it's harder. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Right here. And I have here more space to put different things. Okay. Let me tilt it a little bit so you can see it hopefully better. So I'll put right here these power adapters, making sure that everything is positioned correctly. Have the bag right here, and also I have the headphones. So just to make sure that I have everything properly in place. Okay, let the lid go back. I put the cover on. You can find that the lighthouses should be like this, properly covered by the division, and then we have the controllers. So one should be like this, and the other one should be like this. Okay, and now we can put the manual on top of it. Make sure that all cables are inside properly, and if everything is correctly, the box should close correctly. And we just make sure to put the final touches. Okay, and that's how to put away our device.